It is February 2nd, 2026. This is a public hearing meeting for the proposed North Rock Island Port District TIF. I'm going to start off by giving a little bit of a presentation on what tax increment financing, or TIF, is, go into some of the details on the proposed North Rock Island Port District TIF. Then we will open it up for public hearing, and then I'll briefly discuss some next steps after that. My name is Tanner Osing. I'm the Planning and Zoning Manager for the City of Rock Island. You probably saw my name on that notice that you received in the mail. I'm also joined tonight by Adam Stroud of PGAV Planners. They are the planning consultant for this TIF district that the city has hired. So without further ado, we're going to get into the presentation here. So a little bit about on what tax increment financing is. It is a community and economic development tool. It is not an additional property tax or an increase in your property taxes. TIF is commonly used by local governments in the state of Illinois. The city currently has 9 active TIF districts. Overall, TIFs help pay for improvements in designated areas. So if you received the certified mailing notice, you have property within the designated area. The TIF money that the city could acquire would have to be used in that area. The overall goal of TIF is to encourage redevelopment without raising or increasing property taxes. So why do communities use TIF? To revitalize blighted or undeveloped areas, attract private investment, possibly working on business development projects, site readiness activities, other infrastructure improvements such as new streets, new utilities, new sidewalks, and then supporting job creation and overall economic growth. How does TIF work? So I'm going to go over a little bit more detail here about how a TIF district gets money and how that money can be used. So when a TIF district is created, property values are frozen at their current level. That's called the base value. I have a graph on the next slide that shows what this talks about. But as property values increase and new higher value development happens, the TIF fund, the special TIF fund, gains money. So basically any new tax revenue that's generated can be put into this special pot of money, and then that money can be used to reinvest back into the district for eligible projects. So again, not a raise on property taxes, but it does use property taxes as a financing tool. So this graph shows what I talked about on the previous slide. The purple at the bottom there, that's the base value. That lighter yellow, that's the incremental value that's generated. So think of that as, new, say, property values rise over time, more money is paid on property taxes, or say new development comes along, such as a vacant piece of land being developed into a new house, new business, that sort of thing. It's going to have a higher property value. That money is going to increase that increment, and then that money can be used to support projects, with the overall goal to have higher values at the end of the life of a TIF district, which is 23 years. So moving on to what the North Rock Island Port, a little bit more about the North Rock Island Port District TIF. This is the TIF district that the city is proposing. It covers land on the west side of Rock Island, primarily some of the city's older legacy industrial areas and adjacent residential neighborhoods. The overall goal, primary goal is the TIF is designed to support industrial redevelopment in this area, and then other infrastructure investment alongside that. So this map here shows the north half of the proposed redevelopment area. You can see on the screen, it extends out to the Mississippi River, comes near downtown, and then extends further south along 5th Street, and then out to 9th Street as it gets further south. And this is just the south half, so it extends all the way down basically till the city limits on the Rock River, kind of hugging that railroad track area along there. So why is the city proposing this district? This area does have some challenges, primarily with aging and inadequate infrastructure and some vacant and underused industrial land. In 2024, the city became a regional port district. Basically, that port district designation is focused on how commerce moves throughout the city. It includes river-based commerce, but also freight and rail as well. We are going through a planning process for that project right now, and one of the things that consultant identified is that the city has a lot of underused industrial spaces in this area. So we are taking a look at that with this TIF district. Some of those spaces may have potential environmental cleanup needs, and then along with that, they face higher development cost given not being quite site ready for new development. So what are the specific goals of this Port District TIF? The main one, again, is to support industrial and logistics-related development that aligns with the city's recent designation as a regional port district that we just discussed. Also assist with site readiness activities such as environmental remediation. There could be an older industrial site that has a history of contamination and something the city may need to step in and use some of this TIF money for to help a developer clean that up. Additionally, just very broadly, improve roads, utilities, and other port-related infrastructure that would be necessary, say, to move goods and services throughout the area. And then the city is also interested in potentially supporting some housing rehabilitation in targeted areas. So that's the reason that we're including some of the adjacent residential area, in part, to use some of these TIF dollars to potentially help with housing rehab. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Adam to talk a little bit about some of the TIF district qualifications before we take it to the public hearing.
Okay, thank you, Tanner. So I work for a consulting firm out of St. Louis. We do work all over Illinois, and we were hired by the city to put together a study that would allow the city to use this tool within the boundary that you've all seen on those maps. You have to meet certain qualifications, and it doesn't mean that there's not nice properties. It doesn't mean that the city's not nice or anything like that. It just means that there are certain specific things, certain characteristics that this area has that allows the city to use this tool. The factors we used were, and by the way, we did some field work in the area to walk around, take pictures, look at the infrastructure, and identify different issues with the infrastructure in this area. So deterioration of buildings, of right-of-way, that was used as a factor. Inadequate utilities. So this isn't something that you can necessarily see just by walking around, but we've been in contact with the city's public works director, and he's indicated that there's a lot of aging infrastructure in this area that could certainly be improved. There are lots, vacant lots in this area that cannot be built upon without some zoning changes, and that's one of the factors that the state allows us to use to qualify the area. So it's the combination of all of these factors that allows the city to designate this area as a TIF district. Nobody can predict the future. However, it's my experience and my observation in areas where there's a combination of industrial and residential, as I'm sure many of you are aware, or you may live in this area. As new projects happen within the industrial part of it, as Tanner said, there's this master plan, there's this new port district. As projects happen within that riverfront area, the property values of those properties on the riverfront will rise. And a lot of the money that can be spent in the residential neighborhoods will be generated actually on the riverfront. We don't anticipate very much of the revenue coming from the residential side of it. But the city has included the residential area so that a lot of the money generated in the industrial area can be used to improve homes and infrastructure within the residential portion of this area. So it's a tool that the city has used for years now. This is an area that they see opportunity, and so that's the primary use, that's the primary goal of this tool. TIFs last 23 years, so it's a long time, but when you consider that the riverfront will take a long time to rehabilitate, properties that are environmentally contaminated will take a long time to remediate. 23 years doesn't really seem like that much time when you consider how long these things take. So this is a tool that the city's putting in place. It's a framework. There's no proposed specific projects that are planned yet, but it's simply about putting the tool in place to then attract private projects and hopefully improve the area. Tanner?
Okay, thank you, Adam. Now we are going to turn it over to the public hearing section of tonight's meeting. I'm going to turn around this podium, put a microphone up here. There's a sign-up sheet. Is that it? Did everybody sign up who wanted to speak tonight? Everybody get a chance to wanted to, ma'am? So just a reminder, folks, it's 5 minutes per person, just so everybody has a chance to speak. It's not meant as a question and answer. I will stick around a little bit after the meeting if anybody has questions, or I can provide you my contact info so you can follow up with me later if you wish. No, ma'am. I do. Yeah, sure. Yeah. Okay. Thank you. I can send them to you. Yep. The first name I have on the sign-up sheet is William Nunn.
Good evening, good afternoon. One, I will say that I'm kind of disappointed that it's not a Q&A session. So as I ask comments, my first comment is that before you move forward, that there is a time that we set aside for the public to have an open forum for questions and answers so that that can be publicly noted and commented on into the future, that we don't lose track of that. You mentioned the property value being locked. One of the things I want to make certain is that whatever that value is that's locked, it's also available to those homeowners so that they see where it is. The reasoning is over 23 years, as you said, that can go by at a flash, but we're stuck with our paychecks on a day-to-day basis. So on an annual basis, we will make sure that our property taxes are not increasing. And so we want to make sure that's written in stone somewhere, that that's going to be held in stone. To that, you mentioned it's your anticipated valuation for those new properties, and I want to make sure that's the cost or the revenue generation. It's for the new properties that are going to be brought into the site and not against those existing properties. The question that I have is the way that TIFs, there's a couple ways that TIFs work. You either incentivize them up front, or you incentivize them during, or you have a balloon payment of incentivations later. My request is that whatever we put into place, we have a clawback. What I mean by that, if they don't meet their goals for our taxation revenues, that the city's not stuck, right, having lost potential taxation because we've given it away up front. And so that the residents don't have to pick up that load later on. That's happened in the past, and we don't need it to happen again. I think you mentioned you don't have anyone identified currently. I would like to know who you're entertaining. So you don't present the TIF to a city just for the fun of it. There has to be something in your vision. And so I would like that to be shown publicly so that we can understand it. And again, that's part of the Q&A so that we potentially can talk through that. Your guidelines for selections, that needs to be made public. for those people who are investors, we may want to participate in that. And so without that information, we can't participate fairly. And the selection process, I know we can do a request for information, but it would be nice to understand what the selection process is, and for those recipients that do get chosen, that those recipients and their information is provided in a public forum. You mentioned the riverfront. So on some other engagements where it's happened on the riverfront, oftentimes with cleanup, oftentimes with hazard material, that there's residuals, right? And the public is often impacted by it because it's not taken into consideration earlier. So I want to make certain that if we're looking at those riverfront developments, which is key because that area does need to be developed, that the cities, the owners of homes are protected in those situations where they do uncover hazard materials, that now we as the citizens are not stuck again shouldering the cleanup for that. Right? It's a flood zone. We already know we're paying insurance for flood zones now, so we don't want to incur additional unnecessary costs. I think that answers doesn't answer any questions, but at least I stated what I needed to see in the future. Okay?
Thank you.
Yep.
Next up, I have Monaco Diaz. Monaco?
Yeah, I got a simple question.
Yeah, talk in the mic, sir, please.
Can you write me down a copy of what you're talking about? A copy?
Sure.
That's all. I just want to show what we're talking about.
Okay.
You have a page that I leave?
Yeah, that's fine. Thank you. Okay. I see Errol Hall is crossed out, so Juanita?
I've lived in my current location for 50 years or so. My brother-in-law told me he had friends down in the planning department, and there was plans over 40 years ago for the riverfront. And he said to hang on to my property because they're going to develop it. That said, I've been trying for over 40 years. My whole block on the west and east side of 7th Street and 8th Street have been trying to get an alley, a paved alley, for over 50 years. It has been petitioned. They kept saying, oh, your taxes are going to go up. We don't mind if we're recipients of said improvements. On the waterfront, we won't see any improvement that we're paying for. It's going to go to condos or that sort. You might have a port in there, but I think they're going to de-industrialize it. That's why they want the economic cleanup. That said, our property values may go up, may not. And then we're going to be improving properties that are derelict, that have been derelict for years. And to my knowledge, no one has contacted the property owners to clean up their own property. They might be living in Vegas. And so now, even a lot of property people that like to buy rental property, they're all down in the neighborhoods trying to scalp up everything they can. I can't tell you how many times I've gotten cards, we want to buy your property for nothing. And that said, a lot of people, they look at us, we're redlined. We can't even get pizza delivery. Hello? We can't even, and for something that we had no deal in, how people run their business and who they send and where they send them to. Okay? So you're not going to like what I say, but we're going to be stuck on the back end of something paying with our taxes. And some of us, a lot of us are seniors, so we get senior freeze. Are they going to take that away? Okay. And then we're paying for all the police. We're paying for everything we're paying for is pensions. If you look at your tax thing, it's pensions. We're paying people's pensions because they don't want to put in a private pension for their employees that's public. Okay, and then the debacle with those people that are planning, they planned a dang plaza downtown Rock Island, and then they had to tear it up and put a street in. Where's all the money for that? It's a black hole. All our lottery money for the state of Illinois is supposed to go for schools and roads, but there's a clause that they don't tell people about that's been in there for over 30 years. It says when they have a need to borrow from the general when the general fund is low, there's a clause they can borrow from your lottery money and your schools and roads go zero. That's been happening because it's always a black hole. And so I'm glad you had this hearing. I never had the privilege to come to a lot of city council meetings because I had to work, unfortunately, second and third shift. You know, which I think that's a sham too. They ought to have it when everybody can come. Those that, you know, they can't take off of work and come down here and see what the city's doing. And, you know, and a lot of people are disillusioned. We're disillusioned because you take our tax dollars, our money dollars, and now it's a TIF fund. We're paying this monthly. Monthly. That's another bill. And some people can't afford to pay that monthly out of their retirement. And you just think we're just going to have, as it was proposed to us, street improvements. Wasn't anything said about improving derelict property from a homeowner that needs to be accountable. As a lot of them are rental properties because somebody's come down here and grabbed up 50 properties for cheap and they rent them out and then they don't fix them up. And then they expect people to live in them. Oh, well, we know who's going to live in them, those that can't afford to do better. I guess my 5 minutes is up because I can give you a whole 2 hours more.
Okay, next up is Ellis Atwater.
My question's been answered already.
Okay. The next on my list, I can't quite tell if it's OJ or DJ Berkestrand. OJ or DJ Berkestrand? No, you're okay? Okay. John and Denise Van Norman.
My name is John Van Norman, and this is my wife Denise. And I wish I would have been told on the previous meeting letter that was sent out that this would just be a comment meeting after that one, December 1st. So that was incomplete information that was left out. And our concern is still about the redevelopment projects. Oh wait, let me back up here. It says, no redevelopment project has been identified that would displace inhabited residential units. So I'm suggesting to take care of our neighborhood on the displacement part, that they either exempt us from the displacement phrase, and if that can't be done because it's included in the TIF, then the map needs to be amended to go around our neighborhood, because if you look at that map, it was nice and smooth going around the Rock River, and over here on 9th Street, it jogged in, jogged out, back and forth, swooped down. So if they can draw that map that irregularly, they could add a couple little white dots, which includes our neighborhood, to be totally exempt. If you just amend it so we don't have the displacement effect on our properties, then you can still collect your TIF money over and above that. And let's see. So basically, I'm not happy with a lack of full disclosure on how this whole thing has been handled with the people involved. I think better notification, especially in letters, if you're going to have a meeting that is the last time for people to do question and answers, is to put that in the letter. Because the last time I talked to you on December 1st, you said, oh, well, you bring something up at the next meeting after the first of the year. So that was misleading me to think that we could come in with more questions rather than comments. Comments ain't squat most of the time. And like that lady was talking about, people coming in and buying and fixing up or not fixing property up and just buying it cheap and renting it out. The inspectors in this city get paid an astronomical salary to do their job. I have tried for 15 years to get a road resurfaced, and I get all kinds of excuses that they don't have the money or your taxes will go up. I said, whatever, do the road. The road's so badly humped in the wintertime, our cars drag in the center of the hump. And I've pointed out properties across the street from my house and one or two houses up. The one that's two houses up across the street has 12 to 14 foot trees and weeds growing in it. But yet you go around up on 6th Street in front of that house and the yard is mowed perfectly fine back to where all the growth is at. And I've given one particular inspector multiple properties of no permits being posted, but they're doing roofs. A lot of roofs without permits. And I'll get back with you, and he never does. They're getting paid $125,000 to $150,000 a year salary driving around in brand new $50,000 or $70,000 trucks. And we only handle complaints. I said, I'm complaining to you in front. Do I need to write it down? No, I'll write it down. Nothing gets done. So with all this TIF money supposed to go into infrastructure, I find that hard to believe that that will be true since we haven't had an improved road on our street in 15 years that I've inquired.
30 seconds left, John.
Okay. So I have a petition, since I couldn't find it on the internet, but better take a picture so I know I got all the signatures. So there's
We have more copies if anybody wants to sign this petition. It's basically saying
What I just said.
remove us from the displacement sentence or to amend the map so that
We're
these
excluded.
houses are excluded. Yep, well, he's got,
That is 5 minutes. Thank you. Thanks.
Okay.
Next on my list, I have William and Jeanette Petty.
I have questions, and you said you're not answering questions, because all of this is new to me. When I had to go and get a registered letter from the post office from the city of Rock Island, and I opened it up, and it's about stuff I don't understand, so I have questions.
Sure.
And you said you're not answering them until I ask you.
Not during the public hearing, but I'll provide my contact information and I'll stick around a little bit after the meeting and maybe I can answer those for you, okay? Next on my list, I have a Sherry Bueller.
First thing, God, the only reason why I'm here is because a neighbor told me. I got no certified letter, I got no non-certified letter, and I only live a couple of houses down from the Van Normans. And so my house is on your map, and so why wasn't I notified about the meeting? Is number one question. And I know you're not answering questions or anything else, but, you know, I would have missed this whole thing if the Van Normans hadn't called me at 20 to 5 this afternoon. can appreciate that. I pay tax dollars just as much as anybody else does and stuff. And then you say that our taxes are not going to increase. Okay, is that city taxes or county taxes? Counties hasn't increased in over 4 years. City, however, you've raised it every year. You're doing TIF to bring in business.
Ma'am, could you talk into the microphone a little bit more, please?
You're doing this TIF thing to bring in business and stuff, but you're doing nothing to keep your current residents here. All you keep doing is raising the taxes more and more. I was reading an article that even Iowa, which I wouldn't live in Iowa, but even Iowa is trying to eliminate elderly people paying for school taxes. You look at my tax bill, majority of my money is going to pay for school. I'm 64 years of age. I've never had a child in the Rock Island School District. I've never had a child, period. But I've been paying it all these years. I'm 64. Why am I continue paying that? You're doing nothing to keep your current tax base. And so I think you need to do that before anything. Now, I realize that this gentleman's taking notes, you're not taking notes, so you're not going to remember all these conversations that people are saying and complaints on, and all these questions that people have, that I have, and everything else like that. How do we submit questions to you folks to get answers, and then these questions...
Hey, folks in the audience, could you please be quiet so we can hear her speak? Thank you.
And then how do everybody who has questions here, how do they submit questions, get responses to their questions, and then those responses get blown out to everybody else, so everybody else who got letters knows what's going on, or give details and explaining why. The gentleman said that, you know, that the residents, if taxes go increase and stuff like that, it wouldn't affect the residents around that. But how can that be? And what is considered the port? I live on the Rock River. Rock River is not open to river traffic. It's not open to barge traffic. If you don't have a john boat, fishing boat, you're not going to get up or down past my house and stuff. So why am I part of a port? And so why am I affected by it at all being on the Rock River? Mississippi, understand that being a port. I'm not in the port. There's no way Rock River will ever be developed. You're not going to get over under 92 Bridge. And so what? So why are we affected by this if it's for the Port Authority and the new laws and stuff that went in effect for the Port Authorities? Again, I know that I'm not going to get answers to these questions, but I would like answers to these questions. The other people would like answers to the questions. How do we submit them? And then how do we get responses back? And then how does it go out to everybody else so everybody else is kept in the loop of what's going on? And then the last thing I have real quick is you say that there's been no business and stuff coming through and everything else. Crawford and Company bought bought part of the livestock, and they're expanding their business. Is that going to be TIF? And if that's already going, that's already rocking and rolling. So if that's going to be TIF, are we looking at taxes and stuff going up soon because of what Crawford and Company is doing already for buying the stockyard? We don't know. We've kept in the dark about what's going on and stuff in our neighborhood. So we would like more open communication, more transparency. That's what we pay taxes for. That's what we pay you folks for and stuff. So that's what we're asking of what's going on and stuff. So thank you.
Thank you. Next on my list, I have Armstrong 2. Armstrong 2? No. And then Shishi Binny. Shishi Binny. And then Bernice Johnson Brown. Bernice.
She said it's been answered.
Okay.
I wasn't able to put my name on the list.
Okay. So if we're at the end of the list, does anybody else wish to speak besides her? Okay. Come up, ma'am. You can speak now. It's 5 minutes per person.
So this meeting is about what? If you're not answering questions, what are we doing here? We're just venting?
So we went through a presentation. It's on the proposed North Rock Island Port District.
Okay, do you
TIF.
have a copy of that?
I do have a copy of the presentation that I can
And what
provide
are
to
you guys prioritizing far as what area and what are you doing as far as TIF?
Yeah,
Is it for,
I already went through the presentation. I'm happy to talk with you after the meeting, though.
okay.
Okay. Who else? Sir, you had your hand up. Would you like to speak? Okay. Okay.
But I have several concerns, and I don't know exactly what it is that you're really trying to do. I feel that the city, or whatever your group is, I'm suspicious anyway because I'm a black man, and I've lived long enough to see how. Oh, thank you. How folks have done who rule this thing, because to give us an opportunity to come and vent and talk and complain or whatever, moan and groan, but you still go ahead and do what you have planned to do. My thing is I just want to go on record that you've been disingenuous as far as our history is concerned, because I'm talking about not you, but I'm talking about your system and what you've done through the years. I'm old enough to know that you had wrecked whole black communities, and that's my biggest concern. In the name of urban renewal, in the name of progress, business expansion, white flight, suburbs, all of that, you have wrecked thousands of black communities. In fact, the urban renewal, the FHA, there's two different things, but the FHA built 350,000 houses between 1934 and 1960, where they gave all of these mortgages, okay? But only 100 went to black people. When the transportation, and I'm not saying that it wasn't good ideas, there was benefits, but what they did at the same time on the backside, when the Transportation Act came in 1956, by 1960, they had literally destroyed about 1,600 black business communities. It wasn't that we were doing anything to really write home about, but that was ours. That was ours. And on the other side, you were saying, well, okay, we want to raise the tax base, and we want to, just want to make things better and for onward movement of progress for the Commonwealth. But what we're saying is that we're talking about lives. And if you want to knock out the blight, if you want to knock out I want to raise your taxes, raise the tax base, then invest in the people. And that's the problem, that we don't want to invest in the human lives. Because we can look right now and we can see in the King Center, which is a city Rock Island guideline or item line, what have they done? They have not had a comprehensive job training program since 1978. This tells me that you're not interested in the people that come up in the marginalized community. And I'm saying that I have to stand up and advocate, because I don't know what say you're going to have to put a highway, or you're going to want to build another part of the bridge, the Centennial Bridge. I don't know what to believe, but I know that from history, if history is the best qualified to reward our research, history tells us anything, you guys are up to no good. And so I have to come and just say what it is. And you're going to do what you want to do because you've always done it, but that's why America's in trouble right now, because they have not invested in the people, the marginalized people, the people that have the most difficult. you've made your progress at the expense of the downtrodden, and that's not right. So I'd like to talk with you about, what exactly are we doing here? What exactly are we doing? See, we had between 400,000, 500,000 homes in mostly black communities and Hispanic communities that were knocked down within a 4-year period to make room for 41,000 miles of highway that we, love today, driving up and down the highway. But 435,000 homes were knocked down. Do you know how many they replaced? 11,000. And you know how many people got shafted? Hundreds of thousands of families that they did not match dollar for dollar. They did not get a fair shake. And so this is my concern, is that we need to do better by the downtrodden. That's what I'm here to talk about. So I'm thanking you for the time, and
Thank you, sir.
And we're gonna.
Is anybody else wishing to speak who didn't sign up? Ma'am, if you could sign up. Sir, could you leave that on the podium so she can sign in? Thank you. All right. Ma'am, if you'd like to come up and speak now, you're more than welcome to. If you could sign in and just state your name for the record, that would be great.
Okay. My name is Gloria Heyman, and I live on 7th Street in Rock Island. I got 2 questions. I've agreed with a lot of things that were said tonight, that it seems like taxes, but we're not seeing it on the West End. We're seeing things done downtown, but not a lot like Moline and Davenport. I have family coming from Texas, and like I mentioned today, if you want to take them out to eat, there's really no place around in Rock Island that you can really say that's nice to take someone to. So that's one of my beefs. The next one is I have a large lot on 6th Street, and I paid my taxes this year. Then I get a letter, $140-something for road taxes. I can't even get a pickup on that lot because there's no dwelling there. And to me, that doesn't seem fair. The alley needs to be repaired. It's dipped in and stuff. But still, you want the taxes. And I'm like, where is our money really going? It seems like it's going everywhere but to us. So that's one of the reasons I want to be up here tonight to ask. I don't understand that tax where it's my lot I'm paying taxes on. I live across the alley from that, and I can't take stuff out of my garage and sit there on that lot to be picked up because they said there's no dwelling there. And that's one of my questions. Like I say, I've been in the West End for over 50 years. In the house I'm living in now, it's been over 50 years. I was there when I was 8 years old. And I'm tired of being quiet about things. And they are buying up a lot of houses there and going up on the rent where we can't afford it. So I'm agreeing what was said tonight. I came down to one of the meetings. There's a lot across the street from my house. Trees that fell down, been cut down and just left there. Where I'm living, the lights on each corner, it is so dark on 7th Street between 6th and 5th Avenue that I have to leave 2 of my outside lights on because I'm afraid when I come home, all these bushes across the street, especially in the summertime, it's all grown up. You can't even see up in there.
the picket. And there'll be deers that come there. And a few weeks ago, I seen a fox in the alley between 6th and 5th and 6th Avenue. I seen a fox, and I was surprised that here we got a fox here in the neighborhood. But it's a lot that needs to be done on our end, and we'd like to see where our tax money is going. Thank you.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? You, sir, if you want to come up, write your name down and state your name for the record, please.
My name is Jerry Vesey. In getting this letter, I don't understand a whole lot of your this pen by this pen and this here yards by this yards and this here by the east. I don't understand all that. If I was that person in that area, then I would understand clearly. But it would have been nice to have a map. Maybe that can give me more clarity on what you're talking about. But it's not there, so if we could have had a map. I know I read in here, you come down here and maybe a map is somewhere around, but I ain't seen that yet. But it would give me more clarity on what you're doing. But as I was reading some of this letter here, and this tax increments, finance, and latter part of those states that this TIF district that will eliminate existing blighting factors, such as vacant, deteriorated buildings, and ultimately enhance the tax base of the community. And I feel if that's there, and truly it is, because we ride around and there's a whole lot of houses that are not in too good shape and then empty lots. So yes, we have a problem. And but as I'm thinking of it, I would like to at least see a plan or future. Hey, here's what we're going to do if this happens. Show us a plan of what you're going to do with our city. And if this is implemented, here's what's going to be done with it, a plan of something on that wise, rather than giving words and then we're still back at the same old status, because Rock Island is not moving. I've seen some history search of it, and it just, the taxes and everything is just so discouraging at a downhill thing, and then you get this letter here. So we're in a pretty bad situation as Rock Island County, and that's not good. So I feel we ought to have some type of positive plan to show growth. And if you get that there, then we can see where we're going. And something solid, something tangible that we can see this will impact this and on this wise here. And I'm not seeing that. But as it is saying, what came to my mind when I seen this says the TIF district will eliminate the existing blighting factors, such as the vacant and deteriorated buildings. And then if doing this, it will ultimately enhance us as a community. And I said, if doing this here, if you do that, is that not something? I have a building, and I sought to get it tore down, and the expenses of it, because I wanted to improve my area. But the expense in getting it down was so extravagantly high, and so it set me back maybe a year or so. But I said, if this is to be done, is there any type of a grant or some type of program that can either help do or to tear down some of these buildings that is written here? If there was some help to do it, and also with that promise in mind, what are you going to do with it to enhance our city? And then the houses maybe that is not deteriorated on that wise, is there some type of help that could impact them to restore it? And this could help to bring about some of the help in our community. So if there's some type of grant or some type of help that we can address some of these problems, then help us as a community. And then this would also help our city to impact it to grow, rather than just we're going to tax and zoom, but there's no help so that we can address these damaged, bad houses, this and that. They need to be addressed, but maybe by chance we can come up with something to be able to address these things, and then there won't be so much of a negative thing on what you're asking for if you can give us some help to improve the property on that wise. So this is what I kind of noted down. If there's some type of grant or some type of help that can address these entities, and if it is, then send that out around to be a help. That if this is done, this is what we'll get back in return as a city, and step by step. But right now, I'm not seeing no kind of promising or tangible, even to say, hey, here's what we're going to do.
That is 5 minutes, sir. Thank you.
Here's what we're going to do if this is addressed. And show the pictures and show this and thus, and then we can more or less hold on to that.
Your time is up.
So that's what I'm kind of saying on that wise. Thank you for your time.
Would anybody else like to speak? He's up here first, ma'am.
Go ahead, come on.
And you had your...
There's a bigger issue than brickyard streets from the 1920s that haven't been repaid. What they're not telling you is this TIF area is affected by a bridge that's gonna go between Illinois and Iowa. And it's all about where the location is right now. I've got pictures on my phone that these guys should have done with their laptop on there that shows the exact choices that they're trying to make right now, if anyone's interested in seeing them.
Oh, so you mean when they want to move this?
Sir, can you come up and speak into the microphone for the record?
What they want to do is not have any Q&A like they did last time, because I ticked them off the last time I was up here. And now there's no Q&A. They don't want anyone to know that this TIF area is affected by the bridge, that they can't decide whether your money and my money is going to rebuild or refurbish the one that's already there. That's what the big stall is, and these guys aren't saying anything about anything to anyone. They haven't said anything in the last meeting, and they haven't said anything in this meeting. All they're doing is just talking in general about what the TIF stands for. That's it. But they give you a piece of paper for all that. And they're not telling you that it's mainly about this bridge. They don't know where the landing position is. They can either replace it right where the Centennial is now.
Tony, can you speak into the microphone?
Build
please?
right next to it, or they're going to go down and hit Davenport at Marquette and shoot over and touch 92, which would kick out the Crescent Bridge. But they haven't decided what they're going to do, and they're not telling you. A friend of mine from the Iowa side gave me the information that these people aren't giving you on the Iowa side.
But they really don't have control of the bridge yet.
These guys don't have control over anything. They're hand puppets. That's all these guys are. That's why you're not getting any Q&A. That's why you're not getting any answers. And that's why they're sitting here just looking at us like deer in the headlight look. Because you're not going to get any answers out of these guys. But I'm just letting you know that I'm affected by this TIF area as well. And 19th Avenue runs directly into my garage. And it's been a brickyard brick the whole time I've lived there, 15 years. And if anyone here has lived here their whole life, them brickyard bricks were here before they were born, anyone in this room. Because I really doubt anyone in this room was born in the 20s, because that's when that stuff was planted. And they're not telling us that they don't care about your street, your alley. They're concerned about the big picture. They're worried about the bridge and then all the little mini and strip malls that are going to farm around it and where that landing is in Illinois from Iowa. That's all they're concerned about. From Peter to pay Paul.
If we're going to speak, folks, I need you to speak in the microphone for the public.
Yeah, they stole from Peter to pay Paul. Just letting you know what's going on, that they're not telling you. I had to find out on my own from a friend of mine in Iowa that his friend is part of the Iowa development. They're letting the cat out of the bag, and these guys have got it secured in a cage.
Thank you. Would anybody else like to speak? Ma'am, you've already had your time. Would anybody else like to speak?
Point of concern. You just allowed a young lady to make a comment. She spoke already, which I think is good. I think it's okay to let her speak. We have time.
I just want to.
Sir, those are the rules.
With all these comments and all these questions and everything else, I'm going to go back to my first thing that I made. How do they get addressed, and how does information that we all are concerned with get back and flow back down to us from you folks and, council?
Understood. So if nobody else wishes to speak at the podium, I'm going to move on to next steps here. Ma'am, I'm getting to that point. If you'd let me speak, please sit down. Thank you. Next step, the proposed TIF district will go to the City Council on February 23rd for approval. Public comment is welcome at that meeting. I'm going to be sticking around for a little bit tonight. I can answer some questions in whatever format you wish. I'll be here for like 15, 20 minutes. Other than that, I'll put my contact information when we end here up on the slide. You're welcome to take a photo of that, send me an email, give me a phone call before that 23rd date. So happy to do that. Happy to answer questions now. But with that, we're at the end of our public hearing. We are going to adjourn the public hearing portion, and then we'll move on. Thank you.